Are you struggling with basic conflict? Well, I've got a great tool studied by the Gottman Institute called the Gottman Rapoport. And it's a tool that we teach almost all the couples in couples therapy. Hi, I'm Stephanie Cook, and I'm the clinical director at Couples Counseling ATL, where we serve couples all over Georgia, and we provide informational videos like this to people all over the world. The Gottman Rapoport Exercise, it's a great way to start talking about a problem. And whether your problem's solvable or perpetual or gridlocked, it combines the research from the Gottman Institute with the work from someone named Rapoport. So Rapoport studied how to resolve international conflict. Pretty cool, huh? And we think that this work applies to couples too. So this exercise teaches you how to best be most effective in conflict. If you're discussing something, you need to gain clarity about your perspective and your partner's perspective on an issue first before you can move towards any solution. No compromises yet, nothing. That comes later. So because our research at the Gottman Institute taught us more, we know that understanding must precede resolution. So think about something you're discussing with your partner, like a problem. Part of your mind might be listening to your partner, the other part might be thinking about what you're gonna say next, which is really common for all humans. And for some reason, obviously the conversation's not going well because you're kind of not fully mindful and present. If you were listening with your whole mind, with your whole presence mindfully, you're gonna be more effective. So the big idea behind this exercise is both of you needing to postpone persuasion, right? So you need to both be able to summarize your partner's position on any issue before you proceed to switch. If you both agree on the issue you want to talk about, then you're going to decide one of you will be the speaker, one of you will be the listener, which is what we often do in Gottman Couples Therapy. And you'll need to take turns as speaker and listener. And this way you'll both get the chance to describe your position on the problem and be fully listened to. And that always feels good, doesn't it? So the job of the speaker is to talk about your position on the issue, describe yourself and your feelings and thoughts, and not anything about your partner. It's really crucial. Avoid blaming, criticizing, especially contempt, which we know is the #1 predictor of relationship demise. So you want to first start with how you're feeling. I statements like I'm feeling concerned, or I'm feeling worried or upset. Make sure you're not saying things like, I feel like you are not listening to me, like feeling word for yourself, not describing your partner, right? And that just sounds critical. So you want to describe the situation that you're having feelings about after that. So I'm feeling blank about blank. So I'm upset that the dishes are still dirty or piling up, or I'm upset that there's that project I wanted you to get done, or the bill hasn't been paid yet. So you're trying to avoid saying you and describing criticism and blame of your partner. And then what you need to do with the problem in order for your partner, to make you proud, right? You're giving them an occasion to step up and meet your need. I'd love it if you would finish that project this weekend. I'd love it if you would pay that bill that I've been worried about. This is expressing a positive need, right? Instead of a negative need, which is not what most of us are taught. It's what I would like, not what I don't like. It's much easier for the recipient to hear as well. So as the conversation continues, when it's your turn to speak, you just gotta make sure that you're focusing on yourself in this way, rather than going back to describing your partner. Again, it's more like a knee jerk for most of us. So the job for the listener is that it's important that you take notes on what your partner who is speaking is saying. It really helps us to kind of get out of our critical or reactive mind if we're doodling and just writing what they're saying. And then also helps you to be more validating when you try to summarize later. So make sure not to interrupt them. Don't bring up your own point of view about them. Don't comment on what they're saying or their feelings. Just remember, you'll get your turn to express yourself when you're the speaker. So your job as a listener is just to listen, take notes, and then you can ask like 1 or 2 questions to clarify if you don't understand something, but not an opportunity to again, make a comment or to ask some question that's not related. So using your notes, then you're gonna take a step back, summarize your partner, what I think I heard you say is blah, 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 verbatim as much as possible. Don't put your spin on it. And then you ask to be corrected. Basically, you beg to be corrected. If you missed something, it's your partner's job as the speaker to now kind of correct you. And so a few words on validation, and that's the importance of it here, is that it doesn't mean that you agree with your partner. You're just repeating back what they say. You're putting yourself in their shoes, and you're trying to help them to understand that you're trying to understand how they feel. And you're showing them with your words, even if it's brief, this is what I hear you saying, and oh, that part makes sense to me, or oh, I'm still a little confused about that part. And then once they feel like you really get it, then you can trade roles. And only once they feel fully understood do you trade roles. And then you go back and forth as the speaker and the listener for future problems too. But to finish it up, when you're the speaker, you still want to do the same thing. You want to talk about yourself, not about your partner. And then your partner needs to be taking notes, listening to you, and then be able to validate and repeat back what they heard so that you really do feel heard. And so that after they've felt heard. It's a little harder to be the first one who's just listening, right? So for example, if you were doing this as a couple, you might, bring up a criticism, right? A complaint that's softer, like, I'm feeling frustrated about, that project around the house that you said you'd get done. You said you'd fix that closet. I really want to be able to talk about that. And if you're not being a good partner and being kind of critical, you might just be reactive and defensive. Like, it's always one thing or another, isn't it? You're crazy, or calling names, right? Or switching to a different topic, like, well, you haven't cleaned those dishes. And so then usually it can escalate or go back and forth, and then you go to your own corners and nothing, the complaint that you had doesn't even get resolved. So if it either escalates and you say some words you regret, or you both just avoid talking about it, it doesn't get done. So the point of the Gottman Rapoport is for both of you to feel heard, especially on an issue that might bring up some emotions, right? You really want to be able to ask them, hey, can we talk about the closet door that I really want to be fixed. Sweetie, you soften it a little bit. I really starting to feel frustrated. And then if you're doing it like the Gottmans, you might say, okay, hold on, I'm here, let me go get my paper. Especially if you might get frustrated. So you say, okay, I'm listening, I'm all ears. It's probably a good idea. I hear you. And then you're taking notes, you're nodding, you're showing them you've got their attention, that makes sense to you. So what I'm hearing you say, you try to repeat back, is that this project that haven't finished yet is really frustrating you. Maybe they share something else, like it reminds you of when you were a child, and it seemed like your parents often didn't care as much about what you preferred, and that things never got done when you were little. And you really need me to get this done. It would be really important to you, make you feel loved. And then maybe they're nodding because that's right. Or maybe they're saying, no, that's not exactly what I said. And you allow them to be corrected without getting defensive. Oh, okay, so that last part wasn't right. Tell me, what did you mean instead? And even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, it can be so much more effective to do it like this with a speaker or listener, with taking notes, and then to make sure that they feel validated and really, really heard. Because you can have the same conversation over and over and over again, but if neither one of you feels really heard, or one of you doesn't feel really heard, it's likely not going to go anywhere. Maybe once you switch to your partner in a non-defensive way, they're just helping you to understand maybe why this isn't as much of a priority to them, or what's going on at work and how stressed they are. And even if you still want them to fix the door, for example, you're more likely to walk away feeling empathetic for the time that it's taken them to get the project done that you're frustrated about. So you're much more likely, if you do this, to then move forward with, hey, can I have an extension on this? Do you mind if I get it done tomorrow rather than today? Well, I'd rather you do it today, but sure. And then you might also problem solve, cope ahead. If you don't get it done by tomorrow, how do you want me to remind you? Or what do you want me to do? And then you might brainstorm together. So, you must feel really frustrated with me right now, with me not getting this done. I appreciate your patience. I guess maybe if I don't get it done by tomorrow, then you can call that handyman. I really don't want to spend the money, but if I haven't done it by this time, you have my blessing to go ahead and throw some money at it, right? So you both are more likely to be flexible and understanding if you talk like this, and if you take turns kind of expressing yourself and making sure the other person feels validated. And you're much more likely to both share some feelings, right, about what's going on in your life. And even if the problem doesn't get resolved completely, you're much more likely to also just feel closer to each other. Like, I know what frustrates you. I also know what's going on in your life right now. If you use the Gottman Rapoport, remember, it's all about not being judgmental, not being blaming, using soften startup, really having less of a back and forth conversation at first and having more of just a listener and a speaker, where you take notes, where you summarize, especially beg to be corrected, make sure that you're really getting it right. And the whole goal is just to make your partner feel really prioritized, validated, and also understood. Who doesn't like to be understood? It feels so good, especially when the person that you love the most really, really understands where you're coming from, why something's important to you. And then, then you can really make a wholehearted commitment to show up for them, to meet whatever need they're asking about. And beyond just that basic, logistical, transactional, like, can you please do this? There's also just the emotional component of being able to know what's going on in your life, know what makes you feel a certain way. You get much more intimacy that way by really expressing what's important to you, what makes you frustrated, what makes you happy. You're both much more likely to walk away feeling kind of competent and empowered as a couple. Like, oh, if something's bothering us, we bring it up. It doesn't escalate. We don't avoid it and put it under the rug. We know how to talk about this in the most effective, researched ways. Thank you, Gottman Institute. And so that is really the way to do it, right? So think about next time you have a problem, bringing it up in a gentle way, and both discussing that topic like in a way where you both feel understood by each other. And the most important principle here is that whenever you're discussing any issue, that you should be able to summarize your partner's position and do it to their satisfaction before moving forward in any sort of persuasion or ask. And that's based on international conflict resolution, sort of the Anatole research. And you should be able to describe their emotions, their feelings, their thoughts. You should be able to say something about their position like, this is what seems like is most upsetting for you. And if you don't know, you ask, why is this important to you? Not in a, why is this important to you? But in a, no, I genuinely want to know, like, tell me what's important here, what's coming up for you. And you really want them to feel like you've understood and not just defended or not just passed the buck or criticized. And then once they feel really understood and you've begged to be corrected and they say, no, I think you get it, then you have your turn to talk. You have your turn to share your thoughts or feelings on this issue. And you'll start to feel warmer about your partner because you'll feel like they really care enough to slow down, to listen to my perspective. And you also feel good about yourself. Like, I care enough about my partner, even if I don't agree with them, to slow down, to listen, to show them a lot of respect and patience. So as a listener, get your notebook out, even if you feel cheesy, take the notes, way more effective, and really try to reflect back to them. If you need a break, if you're finding yourself getting really, really upset, take a break. Go read a magazine for 10 minutes, come back. We know that all of us get upset sometimes to the point where we can't even be a good listener. So no shame in that, but just make sure it's like only 10, 20 minutes. Once you've both felt like your positions have been heard and your feelings, don't argue with your partner. Don't try to persuade them. Understand first, then we can move towards problem solving, right? No blaming, no criticism, no contempt. Use the I statements about your own perspective, no you statements. You. It's always going to sound critical and blaming. Avoid saying things, the trap of I feel like you are, you're still saying I, but you're turning it into a criticism or a blaming. And then you really want to state a positive need and using a soften startup. So it's a lot easier for your partner to want to do what you're asking when you're asking in a really positive way. Could you please blank, 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 versus, you never blah, 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 much more likely. And if you're able to listen to your partner and get their understanding of their position, then, you don't jump into arguing your point of view. Really easy knee-jerk reaction for most of us, but you're gonna need to prepare yourself to postpone your own agenda, slap your face, put some water on your face, whatever you need to do to say, I'm here for them, just to listen, not my own agenda. And then, you're just trying to put yourself in their shoes. And that's the basic kind of principle at first, and then you're attuning to them, to their feelings, and you're really trying to hear and be present with them, and you're giving them your eye contact and your body language. You're not looking away, you're not trying to do something else. You're really giving them your full sit down at the table or the couch and look at them. You don't want to just use it like a one-word answer. Like if they ask you like, hey, what's important to you about this? You know, everything. You know, you want to flesh out, be more vulnerable with opening up. Don't just share one-word answers, right? Don't be critical, don't be judgmental, don't be defensive. Easier said than done, I know, but really, really try to be 2.0 adult, you know, improved version of yourself, as if your kids were watching and you're trying to model like a real loving, difficult adult conversation, right? And you don't want to put them down or be critical or lecture them. Contempt, acting superior to your partner is the #1 predictor for divorce, separation. So that's like the sulfuric acid of love is what we say at the Gottman Institute. So it's really important to make it as positive as possible, as kind as possible. Be there for your partner by doing this. Identify and reflect back feelings, restate what they're saying so that they feel validated and heard, and they're like, I just love what they're saying to me. And you know, it's much more likely to make them feel loved and to want to do things that you want them to do. And you're much more likely to keep problem solving quicker and quicker and more effectively. And remember that validation doesn't really mean that you agree with your partner. It just means that you can understand their point of view, or you follow their logic, or you understand based on their history or their feelings why they see the world this way. I get it. Your position makes sense to me. I can see why you feel that way. Like why, you know, getting the dishes done as soon as possible is important to you, or I can understand why not getting the dishes done immediately is important to you. And if you don't understand, you have to ask, what am I missing? Or, you know, did I get it? Help me understand. Is there anything else? All of those extra questions really also go above and beyond, show them that you really care and really want to put yourself in their shoes and understand. So to summarize, the Gottman Rapoport is gold. It should be standard in all healthy couples relationships. It's all about showing each other that I understand you, I want to understand you. If I don't understand, I'm going to ask questions. And it's really, really important that you slow down, get a piece of paper, you know, especially on issues that might bring up one or both of your emotions. And if you need help with this, a Gottman Couples Therapist, like at Counseling ATL, we can help you. You can schedule a free consultation, call us with any questions, or email us. Visit counselingatl.com. And if you are interested in learning more, you can also subscribe to our videos. Thanks so much.